January 2016 SLIP and SIP committee meeting. Our agenda today is very short. We have one proposed SIP on the table, which is, I just lost the link here. One sec. Let's see. It must be not in the SLIP repo, but in the doc site repo. Okay, so it's I'll put the link here in the chat in case anyone doesn't have it handy. So the proposal is from Ahmad Salim. It was submitted back in September and sort of fell through the cracks, and then our December meeting got canceled. So the name of the SIP is supporting named type arguments and partial type argument lists. I don't think there's any code that goes with it, so this is just purely a design proposal about what the syntax and semantics of these features might be. It's based on some previous discussion. This is not a brand new idea. This is something that people have been has come up from time to time over the years. Martin, my impression on this is that you're considering something like this in a Dotty context. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm just looking at it now. Well, yeah. So, of course, that's much more involved than what we see here at the SIP. I mean, the SIP is at best sort of a wish for a SIP, let's say. Let's put it that way, because I don't really see any of the rules worked out, and there are quite a few of them. So if you set your mind to it, there are quite a few corner cases that you have to look at and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So generally, I'm sympathetic, but I'm not sure this has a format for a SIP. So that's why I'm not. I mean, basically, a SIP must be more than just say, well, here's this language feature. It would be cool if you had it, but leave it to somebody else to work out all the rules, right?
Right. So it sounds like maybe the way to move forward with this one is to just sort of request sort of what the changes to the spec would need to be for this feature to exist. Like what the rules would be and so on. Is that correct? And then we could consider it as a SIP at that point. But for now, it's kind of a pre-SIP.
Yeah, looks like it to me. Yeah. I mean, there is sort of a meta discussion we should have, but I guess we should also have it with Jason and Adrian to say, well, for partial type application, how do we want to support this? And named parameters would be one way to support it. There are possibly others, and we probably shouldn't have multiple ways of doing it.
So, as in a discussion for Dotty, or
yeah, but it could also be for Scala. I don't know where we are there. I mean, there's kind projector, but the question is, do we want to put something like that in the language? And if yes, under what syntax? The nice thing is the elegant thing about named parameters is that unfortunately, we can't use the underscore for missing positional parameters because that means existential. So having named arguments sidesteps this problem that then we'd have to sort of find another placeholder character, which I believe is awkward. Because if we like kind projector does, I think using question mark for essentially unspecified parameter.
Yeah.
Underscore for existential, then I guess we we would be accused rightly that we got it wrong. That, I mean, if you got any analogy to what goes on for value parameters, then I guess it should be the underscore that marks a parameter.
Yeah.
The potential should be something else.
Yeah. Right, and also to be clear, in the projector case, the question mark isn't unspecified in the sense of, you know, inferred, but it's unspecified in the sense that we want to query it and create a projection. So there's actually sort of three cases that we're concerned about if you take this SIP into account.
That's right. Yeah. So there's the question: if you use it on a type, it means unspecified. If you use it on a method, it means an inferred. Yeah.
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 Eric, a couple questions about your experience with Kind Projector. One is, so this SIP is combines named type arguments and partial type argument lists. I mean, my understanding is the Kind Projector, there's no concept of named type arguments, right? It's only about partial type application. Did you ever, or do your users, have your users ever expressed a need for named type arguments in this context?
No, not that I'm aware of. I mean, I'm not saying that no one would want it, but that's not something that people have asked for. I think the only thing that people are currently unhappy with, and this isn't just a problem with the plugin, but it's just a Scala language limitation, is that it's not possible to sort of like, if you create sort of type projections to partially apply types and then you want to apply the rest later, there's situations where I think you kind of want to be able to kind of like do inference across multiple steps there, using that as like sort of a midway point. So you sort of, it's almost like kind of currying the type constructor in some ways, and the Scala language doesn't totally support all the things people want to do there. I don't have like a concrete thing written up that I can explain. That's the thing people have asked for, where people have written certain code that just doesn't work. You know, it's not supposed to work in the language, but people kind of wish that it did. And so Kind Projector makes it look like it should work, but it doesn't. And it doesn't work with the actual explicit projections either. So it's like the only real issue that I know of. Yeah, no one's asked for named type parameters. I mean, I think everyone knows that might be coming in Dotty, so I think people are just kind of waiting for that.
It requires really a change in programming, because I think right now everybody just uses single letter names and nobody cares much about the names of type parameters. And that's just not very compatible with essentially named argument syntax. So it requires sort of people use names differently for type parameters than they would use it now.
And with kinds, I mean, have you worked out how sort of type parameters that themselves are parameterized? I mean, is there a way to do that isn't just kind of an explosion of names? Because I think that's the one thing people are worried about that I know of is, you know, if you have if you want to type that's parameterized on a type constructor, currently it's relatively terse, but I could imagine, you know, having to kind of wire it up together, saying, well, the type constructor is going to have a type parameter called this, and then I want to use it in this way, so I need to kind of like connect them up. Is that something that you're dealing with, or have you kind of?
So there's not an explosion. It's you have to use named parameters more often than you do now. What I've seen so far, I actually find it helpful, because I find that at least for the reader, if you have like complex types involving higher kind of stuff, that it often gets too dense very quickly. So actually to force or to have a strong incentive to have meaningful names for these parameters and say, well, it's actually that type stands for that parameter, and it's not just something that's in a sea of brackets of higher kind of types, is actually helpful, I think.
Okay.
So in the examples I've seen, I would say it's a wash. Some things become simpler, some things become slightly more verbose. It's not. But it doesn't get dramatically worse, as what I saw so far.
Okay.
So would it be fair feedback to the author of this SIP to say that the inclusion of named type arguments seems not as well justified. It's not clear that it's justified if the main goal is to get partial type application.
I don't know. I would say two things. First, this needs to be fleshed out. This looks good, but I mean, this looks promising, but it would need to be fleshed out for a SIP. Second, there's work underway in the Dotty context, so we might want to wait to synchronize. That's what I think that would be a good because I don't think we should like send him on a goose chase to say, well, now flesh out this thing, and then we come out, hey, we have something else in Dotty, right? So that wouldn't be fair to him either.
Yeah. Also, I mean, I think just to be maybe he's clear on this already, but I think it's worth being clear that there's sort of two things people want, right? One is partial application, and one is just partial specification, where they want to apply all the types, but they only want to specify some of them and infer the rest. Yeah. And I think it's just good to be clear that those are two different cases. Let me reread the SIP, but I feel like sometimes there's a little bit of confusion about which is which.
That's actually a very good point. Yeah.
I think certainly from the Scala team's perspective that the partial type application part, it's conceivable that could end up in regular Scala without going through Dotty first. But I think the named type parameter stuff would, that would have to be tried in Dotty first. That's much more experimental. And then only then would we, if it worked out there, would we look at a possible sort of backport.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, it's the implementation is not exactly trivial. So in particular, I haven't gotten around to the one. This is partial specification yet, but I'm not exactly. I think you would have to touch quite a few places in the compiler to make that work.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think we might be done with this one.
Okay, good. So let's get a larger team together next time.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I guess the SIP and SLIP stuff has been moving slowly for a couple reasons. One was just the holidays, and then the other reason is that we don't have a coordinator right now. But
Yeah.
we'll see what happens.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks, Seth.
Sure.
Bye-bye.